everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is my pleasure to host you all virtually again. My name is McKaylee. I'm with Tattered Cover Bookstore. And I really just have to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us in this virtual community that we've created. I know that we cannot be together in person right now and be that community space that Tattered Covers used to being, but we're really appreciative that you're here virtually with us tonight. And so I want to introduce and talk a little bit about Tattered Cover. For those of you who may not know us, Tattered Cover Bookstore is a local independent bookstore in Denver, Colorado. We have 4 locations in the Denver metro area, which if you're in that area, you can visit us at any of our 4 stores, as long as you wear your mask over your mouth and your nose. You can come in for limited shopping hours and visit us for about 90 minutes or so. But if you're like me and you don't want to get out of the house quite yet, or you want to shop in your pajamas, or if you're not in the Denver metro area, you can shop online with us at tattercover.com. Our website is open 24/7. We do want to say thank you for supporting local businesses. You know, we wouldn't be here without the community. Tattered Cover is 50 years old this year, 50, which is amazing for a bookstore, an independent bookstore. And that's because of the community and the fact that you're able to continue supporting us, and we're able to support you and bring amazing events like the one that we have tonight, which I'm very, very excited about. I want to also let you know that closed captioning is enabled for those who might need it. All you have to do is toggle your mouse over the screen you're watching me on right now, and there's a button labeled CC on the bottom. Click that button and closed captioning is enabled for those who might want it or need it. We do have some upcoming events with us tomorrow. We have mystery writer Joseph Schneider, who's going to be joining us tomorrow night at 5. Saturday, we have Sadiqa Johnson with her new historical fiction book. And you always can check our calendar at tatteredcover.com/events for upcoming events that we have. We have a lot celebrating Black History Month in February, and then we have even more celebrating Women's History Month in March. So take a look at that when you get a chance. But again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. That's the really big one that we have to say thank you for. And I'm excited to introduce our speakers tonight. So we have our moderator, our MC, Maria Jose Jimenez. She's a poet, a translator, and editor whose work has received support from the NEA, the studios at Mass MoCA, the Breadloaf Translators Conference, Canada Council for the Arts, and the Banff International Literary Translation Center. Assistant translation editor of The Anomaly and author of Chileted, Maria Jose is the 2019 to 2021 Poet Laureate of East Hampton, Massachusetts, and winner of the American Academy of Poets Ambrogio Prize for Mara Pastor's Duda Natal with Anna Rosenwang. And then our author of the hour is Betto Arcos. In addition to his work on public radio, Betto Arcos has taught arts and culture and broadcast journalism at Loyola Marymount University. He developed a musical component for 2 different courses at Harvard University's Divinity School, Religion in the Latin American Imagination and Latinos Remaking America. Since 2014, Betto is a guest speaker at the State Department Foreign Service Institute, lecturing on Latin American music to career diplomats. Starting in 2014, Betto had been traveling extensively in Latin America, offering workshops on music journalism, podcasting, and the music industry at major international festivals, including Asunción Jazz Fest, Feria Internacional de la Música Guadalajara, Ecuador Jazz Fest, Panama Jazz Fest, Colombia Al Parque, Bogota Music Market, and AM/PM in Havana. In 1993, Betto received his Bachelor of Science degree in broadcast journalism with honors from University Colorado Boulder. So it is my honor to welcome both Maria Jose and Betto Arcos, and I'm going to have them turn on their videos and their microphones.
Great to be with you.
Yay! Here they come. Hi, Betto.
Hi, Kelly.
Good evening.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us. We're so excited to have you both here. And Bettos, congratulations on your new book. That's amazing. We're so excited.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really, really happy about it. And I couldn't tell you just how excited it is for me as well to have the person that made this book shine as a style editor, as a writer, as a poet, as someone that's just the best possible person that could do this book justice. And it's my friend Maria Jose Jimenez, who joins us now from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Betto. That's very kind of you. It's really been a pleasure, and it's so great to be here tonight to talk to you about a little bit more about the book, and with this different community than your community and then my community. We're on different coasts, so this is very exciting.
We're meeting somewhere in the middle here for this event. So,
Super.
Betto, you are going to read a little bit of your new work for us, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's let you take that away, and then we'll move into our conversation with Maria Jose.
Terrific. I want to read a little bit from the sort of introduction that is actually, it was a Maria Jose's idea to call it Welcome to the Cosmic Barrio. I was 6 years old when I listened to a radio program called La Legión Infantil de Madrugadores, the Children's Legion of Early Risers. My mother turned on the radio every morning to get her kids in the mood for school. The program was a world unto itself. Two hosts, how could I forget their names? Griselda Hernandez Portilla and Martín Casillas. They taught us about nutrition, health, civics, and everything kids need to learn during the grade school years. But to a kid like me, the best part was the music of Francisco Gabilondo Soler, better known as Cricri, El Grillo Cantor, the singing cricket. I love listening to his songs because each one of them told a story I identified with. Gato de Barrio, or the cat from the barrio, El Comal y la Olla, El Ropa Vejero, La Patita. Cricri songs were complex masterpieces filled with subtle social commentary, and each song featured a different style of music. All those songs, the lyrics and the music, are deeply embedded in my consciousness, along with the songs I heard in the evening when my father tuned the dial to his favorite radio stations, XEW in Mexico City and XEQ in Monterrey. Every night he listened to Trios Famosos, an hour-long program of boleros featuring some of the major trios that popularized the genre from the 1940s on. Los Panchos, Los Tres Reyes, Los Montejo, Los Fantasmas, Los Tres Caballeros, and so on. But he was especially fond of a program called La Hora de Agustín Lara, or Agustín Lara's Hour. And occasionally he'd grab a guitar and sing the songs in the carpentry shop, a space filled with a strong smell of cedar, mahogany, walnut, and pine. It's a place where I also worked with my brothers, Luis and Quinto. That's a bit from...
Great introduction.
It's a bit of my little cosmic upbringing back in the 60s and 70s in Jalapa, Veracruz, Mexico.
Wonderful. Well, I will let the two of you take it away from here. I will be behind the scenes and I will pop back in for the Q&A portion. So just to let our viewers know, there's a chat next to the video that you're watching us on right now. So if you think of any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll get a chance to answer them later. Take it away, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. Thank you, Betto, for reading the introduction. Having some distance from when I edited it, it's really nice to hear in your voice out loud and reconnect me to the beginning of your story, the origin story. I'd like to start just by acknowledging that I'm coming into this conversation not as a musician. I am not a musician. I am not a journalist. We are new, but very good friends, I think. And it's this book that brought us together, and it's such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. And we share our mother language, Spanish. I found reading your book that we also share a whole imaginary of having grown up speaking Spanish, listening to a lot of the same music. And it was just such an honor, really, to enter your world, not having met you before, not having read or listened to your radio stories, but coming into it from seeing your entire trajectory in the book. And so as an editor, as a translator, as a writer myself, I thank you for the opportunity, really, to to get to know you this way and to get to know your world and the artists that you're so intimately presenting to us. So this appreciation of the stories that you're now sharing with a new audience, I'm sure, as well as I'm sure people who know you, who have heard your stories on the radio, I think it will be really well received. So I'd love to start by just asking you to tell us a little bit more about you've just shared with us the introduction, the origin of why the radio, why the storytelling in this way, why music, why tell stories, these personal, intimate stories in a book. You have gathered an entire trajectory, an entire career of radio stories. You've told these stories on the radio, one at a time in different programs on the BBC, PRI, NPR, so many places. Why a book? Why gather them in a book?
It's a great question, and one that in some way I keep trying to find the best way to answer it. And actually, I think it comes down to just one reason, and it is this need to share what I know, to share at least some of what I know in one whole book. I mean, it's a big book in a sense that it has many stories, and I think that's the reason. I think is because last year, but a little more than a year and a half ago, actually, I was just kind of looking online at all the pieces that I've done over the years in different, as you mentioned, in different radio outlets. And I thought, wow, I've written a lot of stories about people, about music. And I thought, this past year with what's been happening around us and the fact that, we've been basically at home. We haven't been able, as the book will, people will read it, and you've seen it, you've read it, the details of it. I'm a traveler. I've been traveling the world for the last, a little more than 10 years, and exploring different music scenes and different cultures, different cities, different communities, different barrios, if you will. And I just felt that it was an opportunity to bring all the stories that I've done over the years in one book as a sort of collection of short stories. Because one thing that I think is important to note here is that it's not just about music. It's a book about people. It's a book about individuals, and at the same time it's a book about communities. It's also a book about community building, about how music brings different people together to create or to build community. And I thought, what better thing to do, especially now when we are in such a, everybody continues to say, I can't wait to get together, I can't wait to meet my friends and hug them and kiss them, I can't wait to go dance, I can't wait to go to a party, all of these things. And I said, well, there are ways to do this, there are ways to do it. So I felt like I wanted to in some way also contribute to that experience of there's a way to do that. And so that's sort of the idea behind it, that I just felt like all these stories were spread out all over the place, and I needed a place for them to be just in one, in one tome, in one collection. And that's kind of the idea behind it.
Thank you. What you're saying really reflects for me how I received the book, how I received it while I was immersed in it, and how I receive it now, looking at it again with more time. It really brings up and reveals and celebrates that idea of the I, the individual, the individual stories and your personal connection with each artist, because these were um, interviews, a lot of them were interviews done in person, and the collective, the community aspect, the what music does so well, which is bring people together, across distance, across time, across an individual life, and collecting different lives. So I feel like the book is effective at doing that. And I love the title. I love the title so much because it brings both the large and the small, the universal and the barrio, the small community where everyone is their own person and also part of a whole that wouldn't exist without each individual having a space to shine. And I grew up in a small neighborhood. We didn't call it barrio because it has different connotations in different countries and in different languages. But I love it that you're reclaiming that word as a good thing, as a powerful thing, as the connective tissue of what makes community. And so the book does all of these things, and at the same time, this cosmic aspect, this universal aspect of bridging these distances right now at this moment where we're all so separate and feel disconnected. And I think this book, it's fair to say that this book is going to bring a lot of joy. It's brought me a lot of joy. I think it's going to bring all these, stories about artists to people's homes that they know, and some that they didn't know about artists they didn't know. And then also the new artists, which is part of what I've enjoyed. And with that, I'd love to hear more about the content of the book. There are a lot of stories from your entire career. There are stories from all over the world, a lot from Latin America, but not only from Latin America. Why organize them the way that you organize this? Could you tell us a little bit more about, you could have approached this in so many different ways. You could have organized the stories by genre, by region, by in a chronological order. Why these chapters? You have power, you have community, you have so many different things that you don't usually, or I, it was surprising to me. I wouldn't have thought about necessarily identity, for example, to talk about music. And yet it's the chapter that opens your book. So tell us a bit more, adversity, instruments, immigration, place and nation.
Well,
How did you arrive?
I mean, that's really kind of, it gets at the heart of this book, because I felt like I had to find a way to guide the reader through these stories that are so different and so varied and so diverse, that I had to find some sort of way to help them, but at the same time, not tell them where to look in the book. I think the beauty of this is that you can open the book in anywhere, and just immerse yourself in the life or in the work of one artist or in one group. But I felt that because my work has been about telling the story of music, making, of the creation of this art form that is universal, but not necessarily from a musician's only perspective. Why is a musician making that music? Well, they went to a conservatory or they learned how to play this instrument. That story, yeah, some stories are actually about that, but I felt like so many of the stories are much more than just about the music aspect, the music, the music making of the story of the artist. I felt like I had to help them find different ways in which music can change lives, has transformed lives, just the way it's transformed me. So, for example, identity. For example, just to throw one story from the identity chapter. A few years ago, I heard of a musician here in Los Angeles who is African American from Compton. Everybody, if you know what Compton means for a lot of people in this country, it means rap. It means, Cypress Hill. It means, uh, you know, it means that. It means, African American music. But this story was different. His story, this particular artist, singer, whose name he goes by El Compa Negro, is he fell in love with Mexican music. And so I thought this story fits perfectly in identity because he found his identity not as a Mexican, as a singer in music that he didn't grow up with. He was surrounded by it. His parents, of course, raised him listening to gospel music and to R&B and jazz, but he chose a different path, unlike most people in his community. And so he chose banda, corridos, música sinaloense. And so I thought it'd be cool to go see him perform live in a venue out in, in the sort of eastern part of Los Angeles, of LA County. And I went and saw him perform, and it was basically Mexicans that went to see this guy. And he had a line of people waiting to take the selfie with him. And I didn't see any black people there. It was Mexicans. There were Latinos that were waiting to take a picture with El Compa Negro. So that's, to me, the sort of idea behind every story is that every chapter has to do with the concept that I outline. In this case, for example, learning. The story of learning is that, to me, learning is not just a place. Is not, you don't learn music only by going to a music school or a conservatory. You learn it from a teacher that lives around the block. So I kind of break down those barriers, those ideas that education can only be found in a school or a conservatory. You can also find it in your barrio. And everything else is pretty much along the same lines. The power, usually the commonplace or the cliche is women power or the empowerment of women. Well, in that area, I thought, no, I think it's power, just power, the power that people have. In this case, these are women, and they all have different ways of exercising power to create the music, power to be who they want to be, not who they're being told that they should be. Whether it's Violeta Parra or whether it's Flor de Toloache, this mariachi group from New York. None of them are from Mexico, but they decided that they wanted to play Mexican music, and
I love that.
and perform it their way. But to me, their story is more exciting because they're not only playing Mexican music, they're creating a new genre of music, which is this wonderful blend of R&B and mariachi music. And that, to me, was really powerful. That, to me, is the power that they have as musicians, as humans, and as women.
Yeah, and I love that about the book, that you have both the very well-known, you have people like Juanes, Paco de Lucia, and then you have, and Violeta Parra, the classics, and then you have Flor de Toloache and El Compa Negro, people who, artists that people might not have heard about, but in certain regions, they are very well-known. I've seen Flor de Toloache live here in the next town in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And I screamed when I saw their story in the book. And I know that this reaction is not going to be just mine. A lot of people are going to be very surprised many times. and remember, like I did, remember artists that I hadn't thought about in a very long time, or that I'd only heard about from my parents, but never knew anything about them. So I really love what you've done and how you've grouped together all these different stories. And I have to say, I'm biased. Definitely the power section is one of my favorites, and I love that you changed the title towards the end, because it wasn't going to be power, it was going to be music and women or something like that. Yeah. And then when I got the proofs, it was power, and I was like, yes, Betto. So that's just wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, the same. I could go on about other areas of the book. There are two sections that have to do with how music has, in some way, directly or indirectly, helped a person cope with adversity. The example of some of these musicians, like for example the Malawi Mouse Boys. These are a group of they were just young guys working on the side of the road. This may sound really wacky to even talk about, because it's a story that touched me. When I heard it, I said, oh, I really need to do this. And I didn't go to Malawi. In this case, the musicians came to Los Angeles, and I interviewed them backstage, before they performed here in a small club in Los Angeles. But their story is interesting. They were making a living hunting for wild mice out in the sticks. And think about this: their biggest they had to compete against these absolutely horrendous, poisonous snakes, these black snakes that also hunt for the mice. So they were up against these, critters. They would hunt the mice, and then they would do what they had to do, and then they would sell them in the street, after they roasted them or something. Well, this guy and his wife, Ian Brennan, were driving by this side of the road, and they came upon these guys, and they said, hey, we're looking for, if you know any musicians that sing. And they say, oh yeah, these guys are singers. They sing at a church. Next thing you know, he's setting up his equipment, and he started recording them. And he said he had goosebumps when he started listening to these, 3 or 4 singers sing together these amazing songs. That to me was just like incredible. Next thing you know, fast forward about a year later, of course, he recorded an album with them. He took him to perform at the Woman Festival in the UK to sing before 10,000 people. So
That's amazing.
that to me is the power of what music can do. See?
Yeah, and the power of storytelling is so important here. I have to point that out to our audience, because these are stories that were made for the radio, and there had to be some slight changes to make it into a book in terms of style and the internal structure of the stories in some cases, but most of them are, remain pretty close to intact. And the effect is that, as you're just telling us now, you're bringing it alive. You're bringing these stories, not just bringing us the stories, you're bringing us with you in your journey of getting to know these artists and into their lives. It's almost like we're sitting in a living room with you, and you're telling us where you went. I went to this concert. I got off the bus at this town. There were this many people gathered. It was really hot. You're right there. I was right there with you. And I really invite the reader, and I don't think it will be that hard for them to just find themselves in all these places, learn a little bit more about the places that they've never heard anything about, learned anything about, and really place themselves geographically, emotionally in the story, and that's not hard because of your skill as a storyteller. And I'm just really excited to see where this goes. I wanted to just mention one more thing, ask you about one more thing. This same level of intimacy that I sensed, I think will carry to the reader, but I'd love to hear a little bit about what I see as the bookends of the process. You've done these interviews, a lot of them in person. And then all the way at the very end of the process, you've put together this team that I feel very lucky to have been part of, to bring this book to the readers. And very quickly, I felt like I was part of a family. So tell us a little bit more about the team that you put together, and anything that you'd like to share about these different people that made this book happen.
I'm glad you mentioned this, because I really firmly believe that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for this community that made this book happen. Just as I've said also in the book at the beginning, in the acknowledgments, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for so many friends and family that have helped me along, and some of them may actually be watching this right now. Some of them actually in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado, where I cut my teeth, so to speak, where I learned by accident how to do radio. It was really just an accident that a Brazilian friend invited me to go to do a radio show at a local station, KGNU in Boulder. And there with help from friends, I became who I am today, because it really started there in Boulder, Colorado. And this book just would not be possible if it weren't for a handful of people that, to me, are now part of this community of the cosmic barrio. And you're certainly one of the crucial folks who made it happen. The artists who made this happen, who did the cover, Alec Dempster, and he also has a couple of more pieces in this book throughout. There's an art piece that he did of Violeta Parra. The book designer, based in Mexico City. I should also say this book was created by a small independent press in Mexico City. And actually it was sort of a friend as well that made it happen. Our friend Betty and her team, at Fogra Editorial. And so working with them, working with the designer, working with you in the details of making sure that this book would see the light of day. One really funny thing that this friend, and I think you remember this because he was in this conversation a couple of weeks ago to celebrate the book. He says, in the years that I've been a writer, and I've known many writers, and I've known about the book industry, he says, I've never known anyone who's been able to publish the book in 3 or 4 months like you have, Betto.
Yes.
So I guess I'm just sort of marveled at the possibility that this could actually happen. I mean, when I sent you the first draft and you looked at it and you said, yes, I can do this, I need a month or something like that, you said. And I was just, it was a blessing. Honestly, I really feel like finding you, recommended by Ruben, by our mutual friend, it was a blessing that you were there. Because let's put it this way, I don't know who could have done this book justice like you did, because you know 2 languages. You know the 2 languages that are important in this book. So just like me, I mean, I might, just like you said earlier, our native language is Spanish, but all the work that I've done is in English. So yeah.
Well, and that's that really speaks to you and to your own ability to bring people together And that's what community is about. And I think this is what this book is going to do. And so thank you, and congratulations. And speaking of community, I think we have some questions from the audience, so I'll give it back to McKaylee.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
To help us with
I
that.
hated to end the two of you. I was like, we'll just keep listening. It'll be fine. Because it's true. There's so much heart and community and caring between the two of you. It's amazing, Maria Jose, you were saying that like you two may not have been long friends, but you're still good friends. Can I ask how long you've known each other?
A few months.
Yeah,
really?
Since October.
Shut up. No, I would have thought years. I really thought she was thinking years, but that's amazing.
Yeah, we've never met in person.
We've never. I really look forward to that when things get better. But I will mention very quickly, I think people will be interested in hearing that. So as a writer myself, as a translator who's been published, editing is one of the most intimate things you can do in publishing, in addition to being translated. And in a way, Betto is a translator. He has translated these stories from the field to the radio, and then now here. And just reading somebody so closely can do years of getting to know someone. So obviously it's a specific kind of friendship, but I feel like we know each other really well.
I'm honored to hear that, and that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. In the realm of compliments, we haven't gotten any questions yet, but we have compliments for you, Betto, already, which I figure you should hear. So someone says, Betto, this is your old friend from Boulder, Kevin Petit, the son of Jim Petit, your employer before you started at CU Boulder, I think. I am so proud of you, and I'm enjoying this video. So I wanted to say that to Kevin. Do you want to say hi real quick?
Thank you, Kevin. His father was my employer when I was, working in landscaping. And through his father, I met who became my sort of godfather, who helped to pay for my college at the University of Colorado.
Wow. See, I'm loving, this is amazing here with the community. I apologize in advance for my high school Spanish that is about to come out, but we'll read it. Hola, querido Betto. Te habla Jack, el guerrero de acero, desde la Universidad Veracruzana en Escalpa. Saludos y te felicito un chingo. Estoy en Denver, por supuesto.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic.
And then Rosanna says, so awesome that you started at KGNU Community Radio in Boulder, sending you lots of love and waves as orgullo for great accomplishments.
Thank you, Rosanna.
Bravo.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have copied and pasted them and just had Maria say it instead. But I think this wave of community here is huge. And one of the things you guys were talking about that struck me was this idea of 2 languages, but in a way, Betto, you had 3 in this book because music is its own language in that sense. Can you talk about music and how it transcends language barriers that you may have found throughout your journeys and interviews?
Great question. I have to say, and really it's sort of at the essence of the book, is that one thing that no matter where I've been, whether it's been in Fez, Morocco, or in Norway, I was there a couple of years ago, or in any part of the world, music, no matter the language, music is just the one thing that everyone can really identify with, that can understand. And that is really sort of the heart of this book, is that there is a universal language. We may not understand each other sometimes across languages, but when it comes to music, music is so powerful that it really doesn't matter what language you speak, or if you're singing in a different language, it doesn't matter. I can understand the music. It touches me. There's music here from different parts of the world that I may not understand the language, but I understand the music. If the music touches me, then it touches anybody.
Yes, there's definitely something so primal, so ancient about music, and like poetry. As a poet, I can relate, and I think this is just going to be one of the most powerful parts of being in this process with you, was listening, just taking these diversions, these adventures into a different world, and listening to music a lot of the time in languages that I can't understand and will never probably understand. And it was so powerful to weave all of these stories together from around the world, through your voice, thanks to your voice, and bringing them together. So
very much
I
so.
think the readers will definitely enjoy that, and this is an invitation
Absolutely.
to actually go and listen while you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I've heard over and over again, for the last couple months, that it's making people they read one story and it makes them want to go and listen to the music, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or iTunes, or buy some music if they like it so much. And I said, good, that's a good thing.
Yes.
And what a perfect time. Sorry, Michaeli.
Yeah. Oh no, I just was saying support local artists by buying their work as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was just throwing in a plug.
Absolutely.
Yes, and there's also something so key about the timing of this book, because it's coming at a time when we both have all this access to music from around the world. We can go and Google anybody and find YouTube videos for free to go and see them live 20 years ago, 15 years ago, right now in their living room. And at a time when it's very much needed. This is medicine. This is creating community in a way that the world really needs right now, in this time of isolation and pain. And so definitely good timing.
Absolutely. So we have a question from EC from KGNU. Says, nice to see you here, Betto. Exciting to see the new book. Can you comment on the story with Leo Brouwer? Brouwer.
This is a really special story. Leo Brouwer is probably the most important classical composer from Cuba. But not only as a composer, he's a composer of orchestral symphonic works, but also he wrote music for guitar that had not been written before. He's self-taught. In other words, he didn't go to a conservatory. He's self-taught, and I tell that in the book, in the story about him, that he used to go to these stores, music stores in Havana, and he would show his hands to show them that they were clean to the owner, and they would let him go to look at the sheet music so he could touch the sheet music. And he said he would memorize the works of Bach, Beethoven, Stravinsky, you name it, right? And then he would go home and learn and practice. And eventually he felt like he had to do something about the guitar, because there was not enough music written for the guitar. But in addition to this, as a composer, as a writer, he also helped to create the system of conservatories in Cuba after the revolution. What does that mean? Well, that means it's the reason why we have some amazing music from Cuba, musicians, because they were trained in conservatories, how to play Tchaikovsky, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart. Cuba is all the more powerful because of this, because of those conservatories where and everybody has access to free conservatories. In other words, you didn't have to, pay, thousands and thousands of dollars to go to, like, for example, he spent time in Juilliard, for example. He spent, I think, like about a year or so, but then he decided to go back home when he was called to work for the government. And so I got lucky a few years ago. A friend of mine said, Betto, you asked me to help you get an interview with Leo Brouwer. He doesn't do interviews anymore, but he's happy to receive you at 10 a.m. on Saturday. So I sent a message to my editor and I said, I got an interview with Leo Brouwer, and my editor is not one to get impressed with anything, okay? Unless you showed up with the recording of John Lennon from the grave or something like that. He responded with just one word, which was, wow. And he didn't need to say more, because already I knew that he said, "Oh, really? You got an interview with Leo?" It's like, get an interview with a pope, basically. So I went and interviewed Leo Brower and spent 40 minutes with him at his home. And when I arrived, they told me, no politics. You can't talk about politics, okay? And no video, audio only. Okay. Sat down, did the interview. Halfway through the interview, he brings up politics on his own. And he tells me about this period of music when it was forbidden to play rock and roll in Cuba, because there was the cultural ministry was just not into it, and so that's how it all happened. That's how that interview with Leo Brower happened in Havana a few years ago.
Wow.
Wow is the word.
Right, it is the word. Your editor was 100% correct on that.
Yeah.
So
I said it many times.
Yes. I hate to even just think about closing this down, but we want to end with one question here. And I think I know, right? I'm thoroughly enjoying this, and I know our viewers are too. But this one question I actually think applies to both of you. Maria Jose, for you as a reader, and Betto, for you as a writer. What did this book teach you? Either something about yourself, something a fun fact that you didn't know that you haven't had a chance to share. But what did this book teach you? Maria, I'd love it if you'd start. We can end with Betto.
Sure. I learned a lot of things, but one that's popping up right now is that my memory about music, even though I'm not a musician, I'm not trained musician. I love to sing. I learned to play the Venezuelan cuatro when I was little. I'm teaching myself again to do it. But that's the extent of my music education. Yeah, there it is. And it taught me that my memory for music is huge. There were artists in this book that I hadn't thought about in so long, but I remembered the music, I remembered the songs, I remembered the lyrics, and it brought me back to so many places. So that's just one thing. I could name probably 5 or 6 others, but that was not just one of the things I learned, but one of the things I really enjoyed about this process. It truly was a gift. So thank you. Gracias, Betto.
Gracias a usted. Oh, wow. I've learned, this book has taught me a lot. I mean, it's hard to just say it in a couple of minutes, but first of all, one thing for sure, which I mentioned earlier already, because Maria Jose asked me, is that nothing can be done all by yourself. It's taught me that it takes a community to create something, and something this good, if I may say so, something with the quality of this, it takes brilliant people like Maria Jose to make it happen. It takes someone like Alec Dempster who did the cover. The cover of this book has everybody just says, "Wow, I love the cover. I love the cover." It's surreal, and at the same time, it says a lot what's in the book. It taught me that community is important more than ever. It taught me that music is not something in a vacuum. Music is not something that's created just independently. That everything that happens in music is created because people are coming together. It takes a musician, a luthier, to make an instrument like the ones I have behind. Otherwise, the guitarist cannot play it, or the musician cannot play it. It takes community to create something, and that's, I think, probably what this book has taught me, is that it's about helping each other, especially now more than ever, is when we need each other, whether it's across the country or in Mexico or in the Rocky Mountains. We need each other to survive, to be together, to be a community.
And I think we need stories like this. So thank you both for taking the time, for Maria Jose to edit, and Betto for you collecting them and deciding to put them in a book in the first place. it's a treasure. And I think it's something that, as Maria said, people are going to love it, and it's very good. And so we're very proud to sell it at Tattered Cover, which you can get at tatteredcover.com or any of our 4 locations, and get your copy today. I want to give each of you a chance to say thank you, say goodbye, remind people who you are, where they can find you on the internet. And Maria Jose, if you'll start us off, and then Betto can close us out here.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you for hosting this and for selling the book. And Betto, again, I've told you so many times, thank you. Gracias de corazón. Truly, it's been such a gift. I've had bad days, and it saved those days to be able to go back to this book and just learn more about music and learn about you and about the world during this time. So again, I live in Western Massachusetts. I'm a poet and translator and editor, and you can share, I think you shared my website, but it's mariajosetranslates.com. You can learn more about my work and some of the translation work I've done and what I'm up to. Thanks again.
First of all, thank you, Michele, for the opportunity to do this. And I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't, this is actually the first talk I do for a bookstore. And I couldn't be happier that it's in Colorado, where I lived for 10 years, where I started doing radio for 10 years. You know, I cut my teeth, as I said before, in Boulder at KGNU. There are folks that right now watching this in Boulder that know about my story and how and when I started in the late 1980s. You know, I did so many programs there and at KGNU, and the University of Colorado is my alma mater. I can't tell you how many teachers, professors, friends I have there too, and I thank them, and I thank the people that supported me while I was living there in Boulder as an immigrant. Definitely Larry and Nancy, who supported me in my work at the University of Colorado. My friends Tim and Katie, and everyone who's watching this right now who knows about me, maybe from Jalapa or maybe from Boulder. Thank you so much. And most of all, thank you, whoever you are, for watching us. And if you like to get this book, give it to someone as a gift, and tell them that there is hope in this world, and music is an essential part of our humanity, and we need it now more than ever.
I don't think there's a better note to end on, but I want to thank you both again for your time this evening. I want to thank everybody watching out there tonight. Once again, you can get your copies of Music Stories from the Cosmic Barrio at tatteredcover.com or at any of our locations. We were so excited to have you all here tonight. You can check out more events at tatteredcover.com/events. We've got plenty coming up. Maria Jose, Betto, if you'll stick around before I close this out here. I want to thank everybody again for joining us this evening. Continue to support local businesses, local artists, and just keep those communities thriving so that we can get through this together. So stay safe, everybody, and happy reading. Bye, all.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
And we're out.